I have a friend who works in a hospital kitchen, um, and she's been there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And she said she didn't mind me saying this publicly. I don't know if it's a bit facetious, um, but she said, yeah, she works full time there, and she said, oh, she hates the food. She doesn't. Oh, she said it's awful. Well, most of it anyway. She said there are some good days, and she said the food is sick on a plate. That's how she described it, sick on a plate. Um, and she laughs when she says it. But yeah, she's worked there 2 or 3 years, and I don't know whether that's a bit cruel or facetious. Touch wood, um, some wood there. Touch wood, I've personally, um, I'm 44 now, and I've virtually never been in hospital. I've had one night in hospital a couple of times, just as a precautionary thing. So I've never really had any experience of food in hospitals. Obviously, it's got this stigma, hasn't it? Bad reputation, which it's had forever, um, probably as much 40 years ago as it does now. But I don't know. I'd be interested to see what people's experiences are of hospital food. I can't really say because I've only been in for one night a couple of times. I think I only had a snack actually, which was okay. Um, but yeah, she laughs about it. You know, she's oh, it's sick on a plate. She said, but I'm sure. I mean, she said some days it's a bit better than others. You know, some things are okay. Um, so, what's your experience been of it? As a touch wood, I've managed to keep away from doctors and hospitals pretty much for the last, 10 years or so. So I'm very fortunate. Um, got lots of friends. I know a lot of people who are in and out of hospital, or they've got medical issues, or sometimes long term. And so I've been fortunate so far. Pretty much perfect health. Well, physically anyway. As for mentally, well, that's for you to decide. But yeah, what is your experience of the food if you stayed in hospital? I'm sure it varies from region to region. Is it really as bad as people say, or is that just like a sort of running joke? Just to sort of humour, really. Does it depend where you are? Well, of course, it does depend where you are, and probably depends on the day as well. How have you found it to be? Because I don't have any experience of it. But the other question I had was, is it the fact that you're in a place like a hospital where obviously there are all the different smells there, and people suffering, obviously people getting better as well, great, lovely, good things happening, but obviously people suffering, people coming to their demise. Is it just the environment of a hospital and the smells there and the environment there that make the food seem so much worse? Maybe even if you had the best food, I suppose for different people, the best means different things. But if you had the best food, maybe it would still not seem appetizing. Maybe even the finest stuff wouldn't seem so appetizing because of the environment, the building in which it's being served. Obviously a hospital is not a great place to want to eat food, even your favorite food. It's just the whole atmosphere, isn't it? The environment. So maybe, playing devil's advocate, hospital food is normally okay or average or very good, and is actually maybe a lot of the time, I have no experience personally, touch wood, maybe a lot of the time there's nothing much wrong with it really. It's just the place you're at and how you're feeling. Obviously you might not be well, and the place where you're eating it that makes it, so it's a psychological thing, makes it seem worse than it actually is, rather than the food itself being bad. So what's been your experience of it? And do you find that funny, or do you find that, or do you disagree with that? This lady has said she works in hospital kitchen in a major hospital, and she calls it sick on a plate, and she laughs about that. What do you think about that? Do you agree with that, or obviously it's just a laugh, I suppose? What's your experience been? And do you think actually it's not that bad? It's just the place where you're eating it that makes it psychologically seem worse because of the smells around you and what's going on around you, and so maybe it's not so bad after all. So yeah, not something I know an awful lot about, but it's not just in this country. I notice in other countries as well. In France, people often moan about the hospital food, and of course, well, French food is supposed to be some of the most um, renowned in the world, isn't it? But apparently, they often moan about their hospital food. And I know in America, people moan about the food in some hospitals as well. So maybe it's a global thing. What's been your experience? And yeah, what do you think?